Welcome to Nighttime. I'm your host, Stefan. I wanted to start a talk show in the basement of Ray's, my favorite bar in New York, my hometown where I was born and raised. Because, well, this is a place where I meet up with old friends and I make new ones. And also, when I first started coming here, it was right around the time everyone was saying that New York was dead, which was funny to me. And I thought it would be cool to have a place where old New York artists could hang out with new New York artists, old friends and new friends. It's basically what happens here anyway, and I think it's what the guys wanted in the first place when they started the bar. And I was actually talking to Carlos, one of the owners, about that. Carlos, Quirarte, most
Stefan.
interesting man, New York City. How are you doing?
Very good. Yourself?
I'm very excited now that we're doing the show. I want the people to know why you started this bar.
We wanted to create something that felt like New York's living room. So we created this place that we thought was like Cheers for us. A hometown bar, similar to ones that were from my wife's hometown. Just kind of a place where you would meet your friends, make new friends. I think we've achieved that.
I've done both of those things here. From night one. First bar I told you that I ever hung out at after being locked down forever. Would you say that I hang out here the right amount or too much?
For your viewers, I'm going to say the right amount.
Okay, thanks so much. It's so nice of you.
Just enough.
First time I ever came here was to go out with our first guest ever on Nighttime. So when I bring him a
Thanks
drink.
for having us.
Hey, I love you. Thank you. I'll bring these to him. There you go.
Thanks, Barkeep.
Oh, you're welcome. How you doing?
Excellent.
You're here for the first episode of the show.
Are we gonna whisper the whole time?
I'm not supposed to project. I'm supposed to use my inside voice.
I've learned this on the stage, protecting the voice.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Were you nominated for a Tony Award?
I was for projecting my voice.
How did that...
No mics, but I had to get a steroid shot in the old throat.
Did you really?
It's misleading. They don't put it in the throat. It's for my throat. It's in the butt, actually. But it's because of the inflammation in my vocal folds.
Jesse Williams, everyone, one of my oldest friends, now a Tony-nominated actor.
True. Welcome.
Wow.
Congratulations. Wow. Well, he piped in the
See?
sound.
I know
That's
that. I know
great.
the things to
Look
say.
at that.
Sincerely,
Yeah.
did you ever sit as a lad daydreaming about the Tony Awards?
I honestly didn't. I didn't daydream about being an actor. I didn't conceive of being an actor till I was maybe, I don't know, 27, 28 years old.
No, I know. Actually, why'd I ask you that? I knew. I was there for that.
Yeah. This was my first time seeing the Tony Awards. I was aware of them, but they were always such an inside group that it was for only like the top of the food chain in terms of acting. So it never. This was a really eye-opening experience for sure.
Should we cut that part so all the Broadway dreamers, the lifelong Broadway fans, are like, don't get insulted? You know?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it's a tough. Admitting that I'm like a latecomer to all of this always feels like a real, maybe kick in the chest to the diehards who've been clawing at it for 20 years. It's unfair.
But wait, when we met, which by the way is like almost 20 years ago now,
Yeah, wow.
you hadn't officially started acting, right?
No.
Like we met at a temp job as contract paralegals, like sort of like Office Space situation.
Except at like a monster
Except-
global law
yeah.
firm overseeing antitrust cases,
Yeah.
reading people's emails. Yeah.
And you had done modeling work then, right? Like we would go
I had
out
done
on commercial auditions.
I'd done a few commercials and a little bit of like still photography things for some cash. Quick cash, legal cash, you know. Gotta do what you gotta do.
Oh, yeah.
Just a couple fellas out in the town. And yeah, then I would start dragging you around to some, I brought Stefan out to a Comedy Central audition for something really weird. I worked at a law firm. I wanted somebody to cover my ass while I wrote scripts and tried to find something I actually had strong feelings about, so I hired you.
Oh, you got them to hire me?
I got them to hire you to be able to cover my ass. I pretended that I needed help. I didn't.
And then once they started
once
giving...
we fucking, fell head over heels for each other, we're out taking 3-hour lunches at a burger joint, etc. We hired a gentleman
Marvin.
who's, we'll bleep his name out for his own protection. But we hired a guy to cover our asses while we just went out and basically day drank.
Yeah, we made them hire someone to do our work.
Yeah.
That was a good move.
That was great. You were a musician. I was a struggling, wandering quarter-life crisis actor, and Not even an actor
Not
yet,
an
but
actor
just
yet,
trying to
no,
figure
no.
it out. And
So wait, you were having more of a quarter-life crisis than I was? You weren't even acting yet. You're just thinking about maybe
I
acting.
was, yeah, what am I doing with this degree? I've got people to take care of. What was the point? How am I supposed to make any? How do you exist in New York? It's so damn expensive. What am I going to do with my life? I wanted to be creative. I was going to go to law school. I was certain I was going to go to law school
Why?
or film school.
Why did you want to go to law school?
I always wanted to be a civil rights attorney.
Oh,
I
well,
always
okay, that's-
it was that or a football
Okay,
player.
Okay.
But I never filled out. The temping at a law firm was not because it was towards becoming a lawyer, because it's totally two different forms of law, right? A civil rights attorney versus protecting
Sure,
Enron
yeah,
or whatever
yeah.
God's name we were doing. So that was just, it was just a filler, but also working at that firm gave us our first writing, we wrote a absurd screenplay about the crazy caricatures that we met. You had a run where you were always late and always had a story about the 7 train. It was like every morning you're like 45 minutes late. Like, oh yeah, John Rocker was on the train. It was tough.
Bursting in.
Yeah. It was this is a job, by the way. We did breakfast, lunch, and dinner there. We had 90 contract attorneys, a lot of crazy, frazzled, what the fuck have I done with my life attorneys that were white knuckle grabbing us, making us promise them we will never go to law school, never have
Yeah,
this.
but also asking us to promote them even though we were temps.
Yeah. We were boy kings.
But what happened then? So my memory of you getting into acting was we're going to go to the premiere of this movie at the Ziegfeld. Like my memory of your transformation from the noble boy king paralegal to actor was going to the Ziegfeld for the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants 2 premiere.
Yeah.
And
I was focusing on sequels at that stage, yeah.
walking in, just nobody's really clocking who we are, whatever. Then you're the nude model in the life drawing scene. But you're not really nude, but you took your shirt off. We heard all the kids screaming, but not like, there's young people. And when we left, you were mobbed. And then that was it. For me, that was like the into the rabbit hole moment. Does it feel that way for you?
Yeah, that was, yes, but also then I continued struggling waiting tables for another 2 years or something before I went to LA. So it was a flash, a glimpse of some adulation and something on a big screen. When we met, I was still, once I decided, I made a phone call from that law firm that we worked at to my old commercial agent and said, I can't do this anymore. This is crazy. Remember, some acting agencies or someplace I could try to do this, because he had sent me on a couple auditions when I was in college with dreads down to here, where I auditioned for The Sopranos and had like 3 tests with David Chase at Silvercup Studios.
I didn't know that.
I almost got the job to play Meadows' boyfriend. Remember if you saw that? Yep. Yeah, 'cause she had a boyfriend who was like black from NYU, and he would, he'd pull him aside, Paul Moulignan, and like fuck with him.
Yeah.
And that was between me and that kid. But that guy was like a real actor and was in The Lion King or something. He was a legitimate actor, and I had never acted in my life. And I would take the Chinatown bus from Philadelphia. It didn't blow up that time. I've been on it twice when it's caught fire.
Oh, really? Did you have to pull over side of the road?
Before Feng Hua was even a huge business, like those early, East Broadway to Philadelphia, around $12 round trip. And I would go in and I, read the sides. And that's when I first had the light bulb moment, like, oh, acting is actually part of the storytelling process. Like, it's not just...
Right.
You just come in and read the lines. I could tell this 20 different ways. And I kind of had a really enlightening series of experiences, because I was really good at it. I liked it. I could make decisions, and they were responsive to it. And I saw how much it would possibly pay, and that was better than selling weed.
It was
I could go
Googling
legit.
like Emilio Estevez net worth kind of thing?
I Googled everything Emilio Estevez.
Yeah,
He's a hero.
right.
Come on,
Okay.
Young Guns.
Just confirming.
Yeah.
We hang out a lot. I don't always talk to you on a talk show. So there are these details that I think I remember, and I wonder if I get it right. Like, was the LA move because of Grey's? Or was it because of
LA move
Greek or something?
I had gone to LA to do like pilot season, and I had a meeting. I did actually have a meeting with Shonda Rhimes about a different show. She had, I found out later, seen the movie you mentioned earlier, thought it would be interesting to put me in the show. She had an idea, but she didn't tell me that. We just met about a pilot. They liked me for that pilot, but then that same day, I booked Cabin in the Woods and got the phone call, you got to be in Vancouver, shoot this movie for 2.5 months. It was a movie, like my first movie in a role that has more than 2 scenes. So I ran back to Brooklyn, grabbed my stuff, and moved to Vancouver for 2.5 months to shoot that. And then when I finished that, I came back to LA, a friend connected me with another friend who now runs Netflix, who gave me his apartment. Me and Chris Hemsworth, who I just done Cabin in the Woods with, we were super close. So Chris helped me go get a mattress, and we got a mattress, and I had a bare mattress in this apartment, literally no furniture, nothing, but a bare mattress. I mean, it was by myself, so I had no hygiene whatsoever. I don't think I even had sheets. I would just sit on that mattress and watch bootlegs of Deadwood on my laptop. These Chinese bootlegs of the best show of all time.
That you got in Chinatown in New York?
No, that my girlfriend at the time's mother lived in China, and she would send us bootlegs.
Come again?
That's right.
Message
And,
DVDs? This is pre-streaming?
DVDs.
This is like, yeah.
Oh, this is, yeah, full bootleg DVDs of
Okay,
every movie.
showing your age here.
With, guys standing up in the middle of the frame and walking across, like Canal Street bootlegs. And I auditioned for Grey's on my birthday, and it was supposed to be 2 episodes. And then there was an accounting error, and I did about 350 episodes or whatever it was.
That was a long time.
Yeah.
You know what's fun? Visiting you on set is fun. That was fun.
For you, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
fuck off.
Yeah.
I remember, yes, I spent a lot of time in the waiting room. Very meta. I spent
the
a lot of time
trailer.
waiting
In the
when I was
trailer.
also in the waiting room. There were sometimes I'd visit you and I would wait in the waiting room of the fake hospital while you were shooting in
Oh,
the
right. Yeah,
OR.
you would come to set and sit there. Yeah, that's right. Definitely the longest and only. You're definitely the only person that ever spent that much time there. I really have a very strict rule about nobody else.
Your castmates, I think,
Yeah.
liked it.
Yeah.
They loved it, right?
I don't know about
Maybe.
that, but yeah.
But that fast forwards us to now almost because that was like a decade-long train.
Yeah.
12 years?
11, yeah.
And then straight to Broadway from there?
Well, I did a couple
Making
movies
this- I
last
know
year.
this- Yeah.
Last year I quit and then did 2 movies and a pilot and then started the show.
Just for context, Jesse was Tony nominated for playing a baseball player who at the peak of his powers comes out as gay, and then the fallout from that announcement. That just wrapped.
We just closed last
There's no
Saturday.
date on my watch, but about a week ago.
Yeah, a week ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How was that experience?
Weird week, because every one of these days has been my first day not on the show, my first Tuesday not on the show, my first Wednesday not doing 2 shows on Broadway, So
Do you feel so free tonight, liberated?
Yeah, I mean, this is great because it's great, but I also feel it's a little postpartum. It's a little, I'm still kind of working out the play. You're still discovering it. Those things never end. You're still always mining something new, and so it's an interesting kind of bittersweet experience having a show end.
Is part of the postpartum thing like the bond with the castmates?
A little bit. It's the bond with the castmates on stage, the work on stage. It's that we're still discovering tons of new shit and little moments, and you're listening, and I can come with my bag of tricks today, but if Brandon does something different, light bulbs go off, and now I'm on my feet. It's like a boxing match, You've got to be able to bob and weave and figure things out, and the audiences are different every night. There's always something new, and we were just hitting I speak for myself. I was just I was on one. I was kind of hitting a groove in that last 3 weeks there. So for it to end, as exhausted as I was, and I was kind of, for the first couple months, begging for it to be over in some ways. I was tired.
Yeah.
It's really difficult and really emotionally kind of destructive. It kind of eviscerates a lot of, just kind of carves through a lot of your, spiritually. It's pretty rough. The role, not Broadway as a whole, but the role I was playing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's still, you feel like you left. You never want to, in life at any point, you never want to feel like you left shit on the table.
Yeah.
You don't want to feel unfinished. I think they say that about people who have tons of anxiety on airplanes. It's because they feel like they have unfinished business.
Oh,
like
God.
people who get really freaked out about any hint of turbulence. It's because you don't feel
like
settled.
my novel, that kind of thing.
Or maybe even less front of mind, like more just some deep shit with your mom or something. Just you think a lot of things that are unfinished.
Yeah, I figured it's probably a little weightier.
Yeah.
Dude,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, what?
Yeah.
That is a great thing to ask you. I'm thinking about the plane crashing into the ground. Fuck me.
Again, we're having this conversation 6-7 days after I finished a pretty successful Broadway run. So it's all fresh and new. These are all, I think about it all. I wake up doing my lines. The other day I woke up kind of like still running through lines and thinking about a way to approach a scene that I may never do again.
You know how excited I was that you were on Broadway? I'm not in the way that you're talking about, you're not like regularly watching the Tonys.
Yeah.
Like I'm out at dinner at a Chinese restaurant being like, put on the Tonys, you know? And like when I'm like shaking. It's so exciting.
I had huge swings of excitement. I didn't really have much in the way of anxiety. I kind of convert that to excitement.
Channel.
Generally, yeah. But yeah, man, it was there was a lot of just direct plugging into the energy of the audience or feeling like you really knocked something out of the park. But I also had a lot of miserable, insecure moments where I felt like I was just torpedoing this thing and they're all going to laugh at me. I definitely heard like, what is it, Rob Schneider's voice in an Adam Sandler movie, you know.
Well, wait. It is amazing and poetic that your actual nightly job is the thing that is the nightmare.
It is the nightmare.
That you look up and you're naked on stage. Yeah. That's like the joke. They're like, oh yeah, here I am.
Oh shit. Yeah.
And that's what that was actually what you were going to do.
What I chose to do.
And by the way, we also talked about how.
Wow.
Right?
How did I never think of that?
By taking this on, the second you finally did it kind of like leave 20,000 other things in the dust? Meaning fears. Like this is such a, for me, it's like I'm gonna get on stage, I'm gonna be naked, I'm gonna be on Broadway for the first time. The second you do that, doesn't that erase, like preemptively erase 3,000 other fears?
You know, I think I said that to myself on the runway to take off of this whole thing. Like this, you're putting in an algorithm, right? Like this, plus nudity, plus Broadway, plus the first time ever doing a play, plus New York, back home with friends and family. You know, the opposite of doing the same show, the same character for a decade. No money versus a lot of money. All these things, I will then feel indestructible as a result. You know, computer up, put it all in, it equals a newfound confidence and sense of accomplishment and purpose and endurance, durability. And I think that's, in large part, has been accurate. Yeah, man, having done the high wire act live in front of the most critical audience on the planet, right? Broadway critics, with incredibly dense, complicated material that you have to both be funny and horrifically dramatic and all these things. Yeah, I'd like to think that it results in a newfound sense of confidence, but I guess only time will tell. But yeah, plus the nudity. Yeah, there's nothing I'm scared of. That's for sure.
Logistically, is the first time you do that in a rehearsal?
Yeah, I did it in a rehearsal before. I don't know if I did it in the rehearsal room. I think I did it on stage. I did it in rehearsal on stage during tech rehearsal. So you rehearse for a month or so.
Who's in the crowd for tech rehearsal? Are there crew
just people who are just crew, working, people milling about.
But it's still people.
It's still probably 40 people in terms of your cast and crew and dressers and everybody that's got people in lighting. And
like I don't love getting
sound.
naked in some gym locker room.
Yeah, no, this is that, but you have even less control. But fuck it. Like, at that stage, it was just kind of, I jump and we'll figure it out because so far I haven't hit my head. It's the only way to just rip the Band-Aid off. I knew that I was just going to go for it.
Yeah.
I think honestly, I had been playing it safe for a really long time in my career. I lucked out into a job that pays well, that's 12 minutes from my house, I can raise my children, I can sleep in my own bed every night.
Stefan can stay over as often as he wants.
Unannounced.
There's extra space for him.
And this was just, let me just do the opposite. I'm not going to piddle around and make little small steps. Let's just leap to the edge of this, fucking spider jumping across the other side to get that web there.
Did you feel like that bit you in the ass at all with the shit that went down with like people with the virality?
No.
Or were you able to be like,
I mean, what are you gonna do? I went from a real like, haha, some of the memes are funny to, holy fuck, this is really dark and insidious and it's a real dirtbag fucking move to make an agreement with somebody that you won't do something and then without their permission put a naked picture of you on the internet. Like not just pass it to your friends, but put it on the fucking internet. Like what a dirtbag. But also, I gotta do 2 shows tomorrow.
I don't know about you, but I have traveled the world looking for a good shave. Cutting myself, spending too much money, it was just a drag. And that's why they started Harry's, to make shaving a smoother experience. If you go to harrys.com/nighttime right now, you can get $13 worth of Harry's goods for just $3. You get their shave gel with aloe, 5 German blades, travel cover, and their signature weighted textured handle. Oh, sharp. You can get $13 of Harry's goods for just 3 smackers. Harry's. It's a great shave at a smooth price. During our friendship, we would get into rascally kid shit. But then there would be moments where I was like, oh, Jesse like has his shit together and I'm over here like yucking it up in the back of the classroom. There's moments where like, I just feel like you would have some like killer discipline. In a way that wasn't square. But in a way that was just a little bit killer once in a while.
Yeah.
Is that from, what the fuck does that come from?
Broadly speaking, probably my father for sure. And he learned lessons from, could be from a gangbanger when I was 7, it could be from a coach, it could be from a teacher. A lot of things. Any pronouncements I've made or anything that has been good, I credit to my parents. It's one of them. I have spectacular parents who are were really disciplined and always we're hardcore activists about the collective health of your community. Like it's not really a lot of I's, it's a lot of we's. But also that I grew up kind of, emotions weren't really highly prioritized in my house. It was getting shit done for yourself or other people. And I think that having that discipline as an older brother, the weight, my parents put on me to be a leader in the house as an older brother and making decisions. I remember my mom finding, I've sold weed as a kid, and my mom found a bunch of weed, and I had hidden, kind of like this basement, like in these panels. They had these weird panel doors, and I lived in the basement by choice. I was not being squirreled
It's like Greg
away.
Brady on the Brady Bunch.
And they had all these little closet doors and shit, and I had a bunch of weed stashed there. My mom found it, and some other things, and she, I was scared. What's she gonna do? Was she gonna tell my dad? Is she gonna, what's gonna happen? And she just looked at me and was like, I found it. That means your brothers can find it. My brothers are 8 years younger than me and 4 years younger than me. And I was probably 13 or something. I was very young. It's like, if I can find it, they can find it. Is that the kind of brother you want to be?
Oof.
And then just walked out. And that shit like stuck with me. Both of them were really good at not making statements, asking
Disappointment.
questions.
Yeah.
Just asking questions. Is that what you want to do? Okay. That's on you. It's your decision. It's not, don't do it, don't run from me. Run from yourself. Like figure out, they put a lot of weighty shit like that on me, which is, it's actually not putting weighty shit, it's just holding up a mirror to myself.
And treating you like an adult.
Yeah, that was a big, huge pivot point in my life where being treated like an adult, when you were, instead of, you resist so much being coddled and treated like a kid. What do you say when you're adolescent? Don't fucking treat me like a kid. It's all fighting back. You want to be grown. Be careful what you wish for, and somebody puts grown on your lap and you're like, oh shit, this is what it's like. I got saved getting sent away to a prep school in high school where you could pick your classes and you had free periods. You could leave campus and come and go, and you're 14. Like, oh, this is the opposite of feeling like everybody's trying to control you. And I was getting a lot of trouble, getting arrested, doing a lot of bad shit when I was acting out in junior high school. And instead of trying to bottle me up, they sent me to this kind of school, as Quaker school, where you had freedom.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this is brilliant. Now I have nothing to fight against because nobody's trying to hold me, nobody's trying to bottle me up.
What's next after this?
I like not knowing, and then you just know. You got to create space for that. And I spent so much time in my early career trying to squeeze and manipulate and manage and plan and plot, and just squeezing it so tight that there was no circulation. So certainly, let go in order to receive.
It is so funny you said the squeeze thing, because the guy we're going to talk to later is this photographer, Daniel Arnold. And we were just talking about process earlier. I was telling him that I learned how to play drums just by winging it. And one time when I was on tour with my old band, with Caveman, I was like, man, I should learn more about this craft.
Technique.
I'm getting better, I should respect it. So I saw a DVD about drumming. I grabbed some guy in like a checkered suit. I put it in the player at home between tours. And he's like, well, I learned how to play drums. A man who learned how to play drums, a man who played drums on the Civil War battlefield, playing that snare in the elements. And I'm gonna teach you what he told him, what he told me about how to hold the stick. And he said, you gotta think about them like two baby birds. You hold them tight enough so they don't fly away, but not so tight that you squeeze them to death. Which became like the life lesson, what you just said. That's like my guiding light now.
Did he mention which side of the Civil War he was trying
There was a little bit of an accent that made me worried, but I only watched that scene and I was like, I've got what I need.
Yeah.
He was like, well, I was like, check please. Yeah, the squeezing thing, the control thing really moves me. And like the idea that now you feel liberated is really exciting. Because I do feel like that letting go all of a sudden like sends out the flare for more opportunities.
Yeah. I came to Hollywood as myself from Brooklyn, so I was still super politically active. I was in Ferguson. I'm in, I'm a hardcore activist. I'm on the news, speaking truth to fucking power, and aggressively or not passively. And that became a reputation that preceded me. And then gave a speech at an award show, and that got a international response. And I very quickly got a ton of death threats and had to have protection and all this shit, and lost several jobs, and would earn a job and then lose it, all these studio jobs and things. It didn't go well for a while, which was totally fine. It was actually a badge of, it was confirmation in some ways, it was totally fine. But I was always somewhat insulated because I had a job. Yeah. So as I thought about leaving that job, how's this opaque Hollywood world going to respond? What are they going to be sending me? They're certainly not going to be sending me comedies and other things that I love, and they see me in one way. And it's all, being black in Hollywood, you're always coming in, everybody views you as aggressive if you flinch or fart or don't do anything. It's aggressive. I think the amount of time, it's not imagined, we hear it. We all have experienced it. Everything you do is viewed in some harsh way that just white people don't experience. So there's all that. And then, so in starting anew and kind of cleaning the slate, I was concerned, what is this going to mean? And I'm, again, always ready to quit. I can do something else. I'll still probably go to law school. Like, it's fine. I just need to know. Yeah. So I quit, and let's test the waters and see what comes. And I was pushing really hard and kind of killing myself in a couple readings for a couple really interesting, well-written shows, and you're really committing yourself emotionally, and it's unpacking, it's tapping into certain traumas and shit. It's kind of ugly and painful, and you're 2 or 3 times reading with people, and then you don't get it. It's all for nothing. Ugh. And just being an actor is insane. It's really not. I would not advise anybody to do it. It's really not pleasant most of the time. So I was trying. My point is, I was squeezing and trying to find the next thing because I don't want to. The adage, don't quit a job unless you have the next job. I was trying to find the next job, and giving things attention they didn't really deserve because it wasn't my choice. It was just trying to grab onto the next handhold. And after 2 or 3 of those, I was like, I might just quit this acting thing. I might just direct because I really love directing, and I'll do something else. And I just kind of let go. Fuck it, I'm not gonna be pressed. I'm just gonna chill. Write, focused on writing, and just released all of it. And then sure enough, I got an offer for a comedy, got an offer for another comedy, got an offer for something else. And then every month of that year I worked, doing things that were fun and different and took me somewhere, physically, geographically, emotionally. Everything kind of started to fall into place for a little bit. I had a good little run of a few months, and that was confirmation enough for me to just, it was the first time I got to really test the waters on that, even if it's a short sample size, just to let go and see what they think. It's a weird thing being an actor because we're not on the calls with the producers, the directors, the agents, casting people. We don't hear or see anything that your reps don't tell you. All you get is a phone call and they tell you, Stefan, this is what I heard, this is what they're saying, they're asking about you. They could lie to you. Yeah. You wouldn't know. We're never present for any of the conversations that are actually the inner workings, the machinery of the business. So you're kind of blind at all times, and you just do your best and humiliate yourself and expose yourself.
You hate this, right?
For a control freak, for somebody who's tries to have their hands on the gears. Yeah. It's a really tough thing to be. So
this is why directing is glorious now.
Well, directing just works for me because.
You're a control freak?
No, I'm not. But I'm an information junkie. Okay. And I like to ask questions of everybody. I like to understand every one of these men and women's job and spend time with them and ask little questions and get up behind them. And when I direct, I'm rolling on the ground and under shit and pushing things and talking to the background artists and just trying to affect everything and learn from everybody. So it's the thing that's best suited for my personality. I don't have to contort myself into a different shape to learn, which is also fine.
Do you remember the night before the BET Awards speech that, to my mind, changed everything? I was calling you nonstop for free agency, NBA free agency updates, and you were like, I got this thing I'm working on, you really, really diplomatic, I got a thing tomorrow. I didn't realize what was about to happen. Did you know what was about to happen?
No. I mean, I knew that when they said you're going to get this award that's been given to Belafonte and Denzel and other people, and they were like, it's live. And at this point, this was when I was on MSNBC and CNN a lot.
Yeah, live.
About
What does live
the
matter to you?
movement.
Live
Well,
is-
because I'm...
No, meaning you were an old hat at that
Well,
point.
what it meant to me was, have they not seen what I do when I go on these talk shows? Like, I am not going to pull punches, and I'm going to address this shit. And I was getting a humanitarian award for the work that I was doing.
Right.
So, okay, so I'm going to have a platform. And then I found out that Viacom's putting it on all their stations. So it's not just BT, which is a targeted subset of America. It's going to be on Nickelodeon and Comedy Central and any other property, VH1, any other property of Viacom.
Which made you think what?
Which made me think the white world is going to be seeing this, though, you know, a larger audience than BET's audience will have access to whatever happens there.
And that shapes the writing of it?
But I'm gonna write what I'm gonna write no matter what.
Yeah.
But it just made the opportunity larger.
Yeah.
It just being told you're gonna speak to 30 people might be different than speaking to 30,000 people.
30
I might give it a
million.
little. Or 30 in this case,
In
30
this
million.
case,
Like
yeah.
I might give it a little more attention. I might round it out. I might decide whether I need to name whiteness in this case, or it's implied. You know, your audience matters. Speaking of theater, if that, you know, the audience, I've seen plays that tackle social issues, and there's an all-white audience over 50. That's different than being an all-black audience. Same play,
Yeah.
totally different play. Because we hear and see and get inside jokes and mutterings and looks and languages, you know, posture, it's eye contact, it's all these things. So knowing that when I had the platform that night, I'm not going to be so nuanced here because I wanted to be really clear to all ages and demographics. So look people in the eye and call them by their name. You know, it was
Yeah,
just, it was...
that's what I don't understand, though. Still, to go back, I don't know what about is in your DNA that makes you know how to do that.
Oh, I don't know how to do it. But
No, but I
can
mean, like,
just-
know to do it.
Um,
Just even to assess to get the lay of the land and know, like what it like
I
you know,
feel-
like what where does that come from?
like I said, I grew up in an activist household, meetings, organizing, labor organizing,
This.
working people stuff, particularly on issues of race and class and disenfranchisement. Look, I grew up in the hood in the crack era in the 80s in Chicago, but I'm also half white with a huge white family. I grew up sailing in Maine. I'm like Invisible Man. I'm authentically part of multiple planets, and I understand what happens behind the curtain and how people talk about class and race and gender in a way, maybe not gender as much, but in a way that a lot of people don't have access to. So I'm not scared of anybody. And a lot of the shit that we do is out of fear, because I don't know, right? You're scared of poor, you're scared of rich, you're scared of black, you're scared of white, because you don't know them. That's how it's just the human condition. I'm not scared of any of them because I've spent time with all of them, and I can talk circles around you, or I know whatever it is.
None of this is unseen territory.
I know all BDP lyrics and Bob Dylan lyrics. It's I guess it's all there's something in there.
Bob Dylan Productions.
I don't know. Yeah, that's what the
yeah,
original
yeah, cool,
title, working title. I've had these platforms where they're all looking at me, and what are you gonna do with it? And it's not really productive to be scared. Is something that I think I just got conditioned to by my father early on. Like, it doesn't help you.
Yeah.
Does it help anybody to be scared? It doesn't. Like, you're gonna do it anyway, and guess what? You're gonna be fine. Also, just an element of purpose that I can take no credit for. That I'm here to do something, and I knew that really young.
The thing about danger, the thing about fear, actually did honestly make me think of the guy we're gonna go talk to now, because I recently, for the first time in my life, decided to, first time since I was a kid, I bought a film camera. Right? I'm like, I'm embarrassed to tell him that because it's amateur night over here, but I find myself, it's the same as I do with my phone. I'm always thinking, what am I allowed to do? You know? Who am I in this world? Can I do this? Do I have to ask permission? So we're going to put him on the spot and ask him these questions. But I want you to go meet Daniel Arnold, who's the next guest.
Photography is a huge role in my life, so I'm excited to
Well, we're going to talk to him about it.
chat him up. Now that he's gone. All right, so next up on the show.
This is an ad, but it's not your regular old ad. It's an ad for ads. Let me explain. See, our culture is based around myth-making, storytelling. I should know. I'm half Greek. My father's from Crete, and I've been there many times. It's as beautiful as they say. But there is no minotaur there. There's no creature with the body of a man, the head of a bull. But I guarantee you the first time someone spun that yarn, it was a parent having a good story to tell their kids to teach them about good judgment. And that's what this is about. Storytelling to convey messages, and that's where Mythology comes in. It's a creative studio based right here in downtown Manhattan. And their goal is to help you tell your stories in as memorable a way as possible. Branding, design, myths, it's all built right there in one place. So visit mythology.com now to learn what Mythology can do for you. Because everyone needs a little help telling their story. Hey, Daniel.
Oh, hey.
Oh, so glad you're here.
Hey, buddy.
Hey, how's it going?
Do you know Jesse Williams Daniel Arnold?
We have not met, but everybody
Long-time admirer.
tells me I look like you.
Nice. Yeah. Get it a lot.
We were just talking,
Yeah.
and we were talking about the role that fear plays basically in process. And thinking about your work, I don't know, I'm always amazed at the maybe lack of fear that seems to be exhibited in your photography. Is that bullshit?
I mean, lack of fear, yes. Bullshit. I'm afraid right now.
But do you fight through it?
Yeah.
But
I mean, fear is I think, an excellent compass point to follow. I think if you're scared, you're doing something right.
You're alive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that also rhymes with what you were saying before. But I mean,
You're talking about his style of photography, which seems to have no fear or boundary or a willingness to.
and like the
Put us
forgiveness
anywhere.
permission ratio. So all the photos you take seem to capture these magic moments that are very intimate or very surprising, or you've mentioned like you've even been accused of them being staged, which
Oh, yeah.
they're not. How do you, without giving away, the whole secret recipe here, how do you conjure those moments? How do you find those moments without intruding?
I would probably say to you, no matter when you ask me, that you're asking me at a funny time. It's just a job of constant adaptation. And you talk about managing fear, overcoming fear, which for me is not a thing that happens. I mean, there are moments of intense adrenaline pretty much daily.
What are they?
I mean, it's just like a matter of a constant activity that nobody would really believe you it was harmless or good intention just because of the nature of public permission, people guarding their identity. I mean, it's just like today, there was a parked car, mother sitting in the front seat, little girl in the back, kind of hanging her elbow out the window, holding a can of Coke, and just like talking to her mother through the window. And I walked past and I was like, oh God, I gotta go back.
Yeah.
There's no way I can do that without walking right past her mother too. And as I say it out loud, like I never say this shit out loud, it sounds creepy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
The authorities are on the way.
Right. But I think when you are just deep in the practice of documenting, of kind of elevating what catches your eye, there's certain overrides where like you just have to
the
go
shot.
at least try.
Wait, did you do it?
I did it.
And was there any pushback?
No, I mean, so here's the first thing I thought when you talked about overcoming fear. Because there is no overcoming fear. There's adapting. And so, if we'd had this conversation 6 or 7 years ago, I'm on the street with a flash that I use every time, and every photo becomes this very ripe opportunity for conflict because I'm announcing myself. It's aggressive, whether I mean it aggressively or not.
It's like your Ouija phase in my mind.
Well, and that's a generous read. I mean, the reality was I didn't have the patience or the experience to use a camera properly. I wanted the pictures so much, but I hadn't spent enough time that I could focus the camera in time, or I didn't know how a camera worked well enough, so I compensated by keeping the flash on all the time. So in that era, fear was a whole different thing. I at this point I can't imagine how I did it, because I would skip one day with like not using the flash, and as soon as I came back and tried to use it again, it was like the first time. It's fucking terrifying.
Also, is that baked into it, the immediate consequence of what the fuck from your subjects or from the audiences around it? You've now almost perverted the space in some way. Is that what the flash
part of
does?
it. That's part of it. Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. There's something about, at least my experience of it, that is so much about invisibility, so much about taking a picture that's not a picture of somebody having their picture taken, like catching life as it actually is.
Yeah.
And so, with the flash, there was this anticipation that was just as scary as the execution.
Okay,
Like,
yeah.
I know I have to do it. Am I going to do it? You know, I take half as many pictures because each time was such a commitment to the bit.
Yeah.
And the adaptation ends up being that little by little, I get comfortable on a camera without a flash. And so now the fear is dialed back not only by years and years of just doing the thing every day, all day, but also I've learned to be more invisible.
I think, as somebody who, now in recent years and new to me, gets photographed when I don't want to be.
Yeah.
And in this social media information age, that we're in, the camera, a real camera. Sorry. A real camera is almost, there's a purifying quality to it, a refreshing, relaxation that compared to a phone, right? Because a phone is the new camera.
Yeah.
But it's also the device to share it. It's the currency they're trying to grab to be able to sell it, forget their 15 minutes, to be able to say it's a spy
or just
cam.
like wear you as a badge.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a spy cam thing. Whereas, if somebody, it happened today upstairs, somebody trying to sneak. Everybody thinks they're fucking smarter than you, and they're trying.
You're the first person I ever saw that with.
Trying to sneak with a phone. But if you were doing it with a camera, it's less perverse in some way.
You're
it's not
announcing
immediate.
yourself.
You're not about to go post it somewhere. It's not. There's a potential artfulness to it.
Yeah.
Without knowing you, right? It's almost welcome compared to the camera phone.
Yeah.
So it's almost like maybe it's curling back around in some way. Like, there's something artful about it. Instead of this, nothing feels less artful than this.
Sneaky.
This,
Yeah.
it's.
Well, I also got to say, though, that the physicality of somebody sneaking a picture on their phone of you is much different than, my daily kind of mindless slog, where...
It's mindless?
Yeah. I mean, ideally. It starts much more thoughtful than it ends. And kind of the ideal is to escape the thoughtfulness and just kind of be there. When you're trying to get away with something, although I often am, I'm so in the long, all-day habit of getting away with it that, I look different doing it than somebody does who sees you, and you can see the exclamation point over their head.
Yes.
Oh, get it.
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah, I see what you mean.
Well, by the way, this invisibility thing reminds me, and I'm curious how this has affected your whole process. I remember reading this thing Norman Mailer wrote where he's like, when I started as a writer, I'd go to parties. I was like a bird on a branch. I'd listen in, no one would bother me. No one minded. Then suddenly I'm published, I'm like a lion going into the room.
Yeah.
So, now that you've entered your Norman Mailer phase, no, but seriously, now that, you've gained so much more renown, if you're walking down the street or if you're at certain parties, like now if you're at the Met Gala now as opposed to X amount of years ago, are people kind of like brushing up for you? Is there any kind of like, Daniel's coming, I better look alive?
Not really. I mean, it does come up once in a while. It's like a momentary cheap thrill at the Met Gala when someone's like, uh-oh. I'm like, whoa,
That could be its own good photo, probably, right?
I'll say it again, although it has been misinterpreted and used against me. Like, the people who care about me are not usually people who I gravitate toward. They're not people who I want a picture of.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, right.
I want, and even if they were physically the ideal subject, whatever that may mean, the recognition instantly kills it because I don't, it's rare that I want a picture of somebody that has acknowledged that I exist.
But is it also because you want to explore undiscovered terrain and like people who would be in your peer group or in your contemporaries are kind of pseudo-boring, or is it?
No. I mean, an answer that will come up over and over and over again if you ask me enough questions. It's like, and it's a kind of a maddening answer, I think, at least for a curious interviewer. It's like, there's so little of it that is intentional.
This answer is maddening to me.
Yeah. There's so much, there's not a thing.
No, that's not maddening to me at all, because when I look at your photos, and by the way, someone could pass that pickpocket book because it's his.
It has
It's right
moved.
here. But like, it's over here now?
Yeah.
Somebody pass it over here. And like, it doesn't need to be a big prop, but like, I am curious about, oh, it's within your reach. Daniel, pass me your own book. So I'm curious about, I look at this and I think, isn't it cool I bought a camera? It's gonna take me 70,000 years to capture this photo. In your mind, is there a ratio? Like I'm spending 3 rolls to get 2 photos that are up to snuff, or how does that work?
Well, you picked a good example for your question because that's an old picture, and there are a decent handful of pictures that I wonder if I'll ever top that are from when I was brand new and had no confidence, no idea what I was doing.
That sounds like being in a band.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there is that kind of like idiot power.
Yeah.
And honestly, I was just talking about the intentionality. If there's any intention, it is to keep the idiot alive.
You know, I just did my first play, and with all these people who have all this experience, so they know all the things, how it normally goes. This isn't normal. This should be really stressful. You should be scared about this. And I don't know any of that, so it's kind of like, we're just having fun. You know, it's all a win.
Was it really
it's all
that?
a score. Yeah.
Was it really just having fun?
Not entirely, but my default was I don't have the list of 20 things I'm supposed to be petrified about, or really scared of, or I don't know that the audience normally does this, or that matinees tend to be this way, or I don't have any measure of those things. I just know it's a Tuesday.
Yeah.
Let's go do a show. I wondered, after awards come out or something, then you got to go do a show, and people are now coming to see. Well, let's see what this guy's all about.
Right.
Well,
let's
dude,
see what
after
Hot
the
Shot's all about.
nominations were announced.
Yeah, then you walk out, oh, now they're coming, there's a lot of little shit that sets a bar.
Yeah.
Fuck, okay, now I'm in my head. That can become, forms of prisons for you. But
and I got to say, that is like a formative force in my whole thing, because the effect of like the New York cauldron of ambition and ego is like you're so inundated with other people on the path. Mm-hmm. And you see this happen. You see people fumbling. You see how corruptive success can be. And my reaction has been, not to pat myself on the back, like I don't know if I wonder all the time if I'm just like constantly committing career suicide out of some weird obsession with purity. But like for me, it's like I will keep that away at all costs. And my workaround at this point, God knows if I'm onto something or not, but it's just like to work myself into oblivion. To like go so frequently and for such duration that I can't calculate.
It's like if your monastery was the city streets.
Yeah, sort of.
And work nonstop, work nonstop.
Yeah.
But wait, you elegantly dodged my question. If you're shooting a roll, do you expect to get a good photo out of it?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just asking.
I mean,
like, what's a good ratio? You
what
took
is
70 pictures in an hour or 7 hours, whatever it is. Are you happy when you get 10 amazing ones, or is it do you need
You can
40?
plead the fifth if you want.
no, I'll tell you anything. I don't care. No, I mean, so look, no matter how well it goes, the first wave response is always heartbreak. It's all I can see is what's wrong, what's
can
missing.
fucking
What almost happened, yeah.
And I think that kind of nicely fits in with the long game because, I'll do a quick edit. I'll put aside the stuff that feels worthy of consideration as we go along. And then as I do go along, I obsessively look back at these things like they're my eggs in a nest. And I go and like poke every one and make sure it's, maybe I overlooked this egg. Maybe there's a big bird in there.
Sometimes there are.
Yeah,
right?
sometimes there are.
Yeah.
And sometimes, I'm new to this phenomenon because just how long I've been active. But like, you let 10 years go by, and especially with photography, it's like you have a photo of a planet that no longer exists. And so you don't even know what you have. Let me just humbly backtrack for a second and not suggest that I am really free from the pressure and anxiety of the rat race and of, like, if I look away for 3 days, is nobody going to think of me again? As absurd as that may sound, like that stays.
In like the world, in the age now where everybody can think they're a photographer because they have a sepia tone filter on their fucking Instagram or whatever.
And I mean, let's say it's true. I mean, they can be.
They can be.
And that maybe that does lead somewhere. Not to be like ridiculously magnanimous, but I think it can go somewhere.
Is there overexposure, underexposure to your work? Is there timeliness? Do things have to get out or else they're...
No. That was the case. But I would say that any current evolution in my relationship with Instagram is more based on just like overexposure to the venue. I mean, it's not about selling myself anymore. Like, if anything, I feel so kind of disillusioned by and pushed away from and disgusted by that world of shamelessness, which I understand to be meaningful. I mean, like, and I have the privilege of not giving into it. But it just feels like, at this point, kind of corruptive to even participate in that conversation when the dodge, for me, for now, to get around the intentionality, to get around the rat race, to get around the problem of trying to do a good job, is to kind of like withdraw into just unreasonable overcommitment and just make the work. Don't ask questions, don't compete. Like, take that anxiety of am I fitting in to the face over and over again and just let it.
So interesting, dude. It's so interesting you say that, because if I open Instagram on my phone, which, by the way, I used to be good at not doing it, I do endlessly.
Yeah.
If I see something from you prior to knowing you, it's like, oh, here is a decision well made. Here's an oasis in the midst of this chaos. It feels like here's a considered moment amidst all this like self-promotion. It doesn't, you know what I mean?
That's good to hear.
Yeah, it reads as, how about I keep doing my own thing in the face of all these people doing this other thing?
Well, and I think that was a major service that Instagram did me early on, was like, when I started, when it was brand new, it was like this perfect, beautiful canvas of just kind of mundane normalness.
Yeah.
And it took so little to be a punk. And so that first spark was so natural and so easy. And, you know, from there, the conversation we're in now kind of starts to kick in. When you get that first, like, hey, come in, you're good.
Yeah.
From there, you can, you know, believe the hype, take the bait, have your little moment, collect whatever you can from it. Or, you know, my reaction was more like, let this take as long as it possibly can. I have new space to work. I have this new confidence that doesn't come naturally to me. I have a surprising source of incentive, and, you know, let's see what else I can do with this new set of skills.
Wait, I have origin questions and now
Yeah,
questions.
sure.
Has becoming more successful or purposeful in this pursuit, how has that affected what you're doing? Like, how has that affected the output? Because you're just talking about like how you've gone from this place to where you were to where you are now. Like, how does that change the results?
I mean, in a big way, it remains to be seen, because the work that I do now is so much different from the work that got me the license to do the work I do now.
Right.
And in a way, I don't know, I don't trust it yet. I trust the process, and I can look back at the work, like at the end of the year, I can go through the year and be like, oh, I had a productive year, I did a good job.
Yeah.
But in the moment, like day to day, roll to roll, you know, I'm not any more sure-footed than I was in the beginning. In my realm, in my case, whatever it may be, it's been sort of this de-evolution. Like, when it started, I had been sitting in a cubicle for 10 years. I was like,
Where?
on the path. Most recently, it was Nickelodeon.
You weren't temping like us?
Doing what?
I was writing SpongeBob quizzes for 6-year-olds. I was called the animation manager at Nickelodeon.com.
No shit.
Yeah.
Wow, we were bossing around lawyers who shouldn't have been listening to us. That's bizarre.
Wow.
You know, I have descended into this like street urchin, and I am less and less tethered to responsibility. I am less and less concerned with.
Wait, do you say descent judgmentally? That sounds good.
Well, because I'm
sounds
replacing, in
great.
my head, I'm replacing it with ascended. I've ascended into,
Yeah, that
Well,
sounds
look,
fantastic.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. I mean, in the sense that, like, progress is what? Is like
It sounds like you're on a road towards liberation.
Yeah.
You know, in
Yeah.
many ways, like
it's
less
not,
tethered.
it's not
to
necessarily
other people's
learning new
wants and
things.
desires.
It's learning to let go of more
Yeah,
and more and
yeah.
more. And so, the change is not what I would have imagined success looked like. I mean, I didn't imagine this for myself. This came out of left field.
Were you planning on sticking with writing work?
Yeah. I mean,
So a writer, I'm talking to a writer and a lawyer, really.
Originally, yeah,
Right?
or whatever, public school teacher, whatever the hell I was doing. I mean, I'd switch jobs every couple of years.
Yeah.
Do you work and then see what comes of it, or as opposed to if you had an assignment, does that motivate you? What's the carrot for you? That
it's
dangles
very
ahead?
different. I appreciate both. I mean, it's a long story, but stumbling into being a professional photographer for hire was, I mean, not at all what I would have expected. Because to begin with, at first glance, it's like I came out of nowhere on social media. Like, who the fuck cares? This isn't real. And so I'm given this sort of gauntlet of opportunities to prove, no, this is real. I can really do it. I can like hold my own in these rooms where, the pros go. And by doing that, I got this great sort of accidental education. I didn't learn how to be a different kind of photographer. I would get jobs that were out of my wheelhouse, and I would just be like, well, best case scenario, these people never hire me again. And
Best case.
I do what I know how to do. I like cross my fingers and stay nervous and look for whatever in that room feels worth bringing back and throwing in my pile of my made-up world. And I don't know, just to like up the stakes. First of all, having that task of like, you have 2 hours to do something interesting. That was great formative pressure. But then also, just in terms of like finding some stabilizing confidence, Quantum Leap is a worthless ancient reference. But I don't know if you guys ever watched Quantum Leap.
Of course I do. It's got Bakula and Dean Stockwell. I was
Yeah.
hoping you were referencing the show and not some psych
No,
physics
no.
thing. Yeah, I love that show.
No.
Not some physics
Come
thing.
on. I was like worried. Like, oh, yeah, I love that. I love that show.
Quantum Leap. I thought about Quantum Leap constantly in that era because it was like I would get thrown from totally
think about this all the time.
estranging
Yeah.
universe to totally estranging universe with a whole new cast of characters with a mystery problem that I had to solve. And the second I solve it, charm the whole crowd, be my best self, do good work, walk away, and then, what do you get to celebrate? You get another problem.
You gotta
and
build Rome
another
in a day
world
again,
and
exactly,
another
yeah.
new
Yeah,
language
yeah.
to learn. Which sounds like I'm complaining. It's the greatest problem in the world to have because it was like it enforced such dynamic living and such kind of aggressive seeking. I mean, there's this recurring thing that happens because I'm so addicted to today. I'm so addicted to getting through a role so I can turn it in so tomorrow I have something, not only like the world to go visit and be a weirdo in again, but at the end of the day I get to go home and look at what came of the last round. And so it's very hard for me to do anything that is backwards looking, analytical. And so what ends up happening with like a book or a show is I'll rack my brain for some kind of good reason to do it. Not just like a book retrospective to pat myself on the back, look how far I've come, look at all these great pictures. Like I want to do something for a reason. And so I come up with a reason, but then in my life of no intentions, having an idea is so embarrassing. And then I end up getting steamrolled by whoever is running the project. Often for better, because it's very interesting to see how somebody else puts together your puzzle. But it does leave me with this weird problem where this very celebrated book, which I agree is beautiful, like a great...
It is beautiful.
It's great, but like, I didn't make it. I did the work. I gave them the world to work from. Like I didn't
You
give
didn't
them
do it
everything
alone.
I've ever done.
You didn't make it alone.
Oh, cool.
You did
You're
with
the architect,
others.
you're not the contractor. Come on. I mean, I get you, but I think you can take credit for this.
Well, I have to give a lot of credit away. This is a COVID project. This is a book that could only exist because the people who I worked with, who are wildly successful and productive in their own worlds.
Who are they?
Safdie brothers, Elara in general, David Rudnick in Terrain. They couldn't do their jobs. They were stuck at home.
They were, yeah.
And I was, sitting in Chinatown in 2020. I'm not going to sit inside. I spent as much as much of that year outside as I could.
Yeah.
And so it just wasn't an option that I was going to slave over a book or an edit. I just needed to be outside. I needed to witness, even if I didn't do a good job. It's just like those photos had to be taken. And so it also created this kind of like unlikely lane for them to take a ton of creative license. And I mean, my name's on it. I'm proud of it. I'm very glad it exists. But I like cannot talk about that book without giving piles of credit to them, because they worked their asses off.
1 to 10, how likely are we allowed to tag along next time you go out to take photos?
I mean, you wouldn't like it.
Just for like a little bit?
You could come. It's funny, I get this request a lot.
It's
Really,
and
like a
it's
ride
not-
along.
But
It's
will
a
you?
ride
Yeah.
along, basically.
I mean, strangers will write me and be like, hey, I live in South Dakota, but I'm coming to New York for a week. Do you think like we could meet up and I could walk around with you? Which is very nice, very flattering, don't get me wrong, but like, how could I possibly?
Accommodate that.
I can't. And not
Well,
because,
it's not even. It gets in the way. Can I be an obstacle to your process?
right.
Is
Or
that the
can
question?
I turn you into a host?
Yes.
Can
Oh,
I,
right,
so
can,
it's a
right.
lose. So
can
it's a
you make me
lose-lose?
feel
Great.
comfortable and welcome while we go to the places where you would normally be working? Which is a very lovely, flattering sentiment, but like in reality, like you wouldn't want to. Like if it's somebody who seems worthy
It's
of spending
also
some time with
giving-
them,
yeah,
like
giving
let's have coffee.
work.
Like don't go to
It's
work.
not the
with me.
same thing at all, and I don't get this request often. But if somebody would say like, "Can I come to set with you?" It's like, no, because I'm an accommodator. I would be worried about, are you okay? Do you need water? Is somebody taking care of you? Do you have a place to sit? When I'm supposed to be focused on.
Yeah, I
doing
get it.
this.
I was
Yeah,
fine on
exactly.
set. I had a good time. Do you want to get coffee tomorrow instead of go and take photos?
The whole day.
Okay, perfect. Great.
Yeah, let's do it.
Well, I could use a drink.
All right. It's illegal. Settle.
Thank you for watching Nighttime. I appreciate you all being here. It's been a special time. First one of many. This is the theme song, in case you haven't heard it yet. Into the night we ride, the city of ours at our side. Taxi windows down, just trying to breathe in town. 'Cause it's the night time. Oh, and you're not alone in the night time. That's the chorus. Oh, you're not alone in the night time. Into the room, heart in hand. Wander around trying to find my man. See new faces, make old friends. Hey, some might last you till the end. Oh, and you're not alone in the night time. Oh, and you're not alone in the night time. Oh, you're not alone in the night time. No, you're not alone in the night time. We're gonna sing the chorus again. You're not alone in the night time. Oh, you're not alone in the night the camera.
Impressions